The Future Connect Community Center at West Bloomfield Town Hall's complex is one of the most anticipated amenities on its way to Greater West Bloomfield, with the bond to support the project voted affirmatively by the community just over a year ago. Work is now underway to make the final plans and get construction going in the coming months. Joining us for an update on the project is West Bloomfield Parks Executive Director Kelly Hyer. Kelly, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to have you on the program with us. You gave an update to the Township Board recently about where the project is at for the community. I'm sure they're very excited a year later after voting through the bond to get an update on where we're looking at for the future of that massive Connect Community Center at the Civic Center complex. This is what was proposed at the time of the bond a year ago. A lot has changed since then. Where's the project at as we speak?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Tyler. But to simplify it, we are still in the planning design phase. So with any kind of construction project, those of you listening at home, maybe you're familiar with the residential update, but on the commercial level, there's a lot more behind the scenes that go into it. And so when the image that was just shown, that was our rendering created a couple years ago in order to prepare for the bond campaign, the public information that we wanted to share to the voters on what it could be. So after hiring and onboarding our architect firm, our engineer, our landscape architect, as well as our geotechnical engineer, our interior designer, low voltage, things are progressing, and we're able to make better informed decisions given the exact site placement of the building. So right now, it's August. We are in the middle of developmental design, and that means we've gone through concept design as well as schematic design. So the floor plans are settling down. We're focusing on the exterior facade, the materials, how do we break up the big building into smaller sections so it doesn't seem so big on this campus. And what we're talking about is a building that is over 46,000 square feet. So if you measure exterior wall, it is just over 48,000. But the first floor is under 28,000 square feet. And the first floor is bigger than the second floor. However, it encompasses the gymnasium, the welcome center, as well as the nature center on the first floor. And the second floor will be more multi-purpose space and where the staff is, as well as access to the track. So when you fit all those amenities in, and given the site that we have to work with on the campus, the building ended up being very long and linear. And so we've broken the building up into 3 different components. And so right now it is figuring out, all right, do we have the front entrance right? Do we have what we need for that faces the parking lot, that faces the woodland wetlands? And so making all of those decisions and making it so that it is, we have the ability to talk about it internally as staff and figure out operational and maintenance-wise, what is the best approach to these different sections. So there's a lot of discussions behind the scenes, Tyler, a lot of intentional meetings. We have a lot of different agendas, different of our consultants behind the scenes having those conversations every day. And then professionally, we report to the commission, staff does. And so then we take all of these decisions that staff is recommending to the commission level. Park Commission has conversation, discussion, approve what they need to. And then it's what you're referencing Monday night is Park Commission does report monthly to the Township Board on this project because it's a partnership. We have different authority that the Park Commission is allowed with statute, what we can decide ourselves and what we need to take to Township Board. And budget is definitely one thing. Statutorily, we need to report to the township. So that's a long-winded answer, but to very specifically, we are still settling in the design phase and making decisions that with our professionals that we've hired for this project.
And economically, that's the most sound thing to do because you want to make sure you have a pretty concrete plan come your January 2026 estimate for starting the construction phase of this project, especially where we're at in our economy with tariffs and with the supply chain still very much affecting the overall cost of this project and wanting to stay within budget. But Kelly, some of the concepts that were really critical to the design phase and continue to be in this design phase: respect for nature, biomimicry, community outreach, most importantly, being a good neighbor. Those all kind of encompass themselves in some of the key changes to the plan that came into the most recent presentation at the August 11th Township Board meeting. Previously, it was conceptualized to maintain at least a portion, if not the entirety, of the current Recreation Activity Center in the plans for the future Connect Community Center. Now that's different. That building is currently under this plan going to be demolished, mostly to make space for the building to, again, fit that footprint on the Civic Center complex, but also, most importantly, to allow that footprint to be minimally effective on the nature surrounding that building. That was a really critical part and continues to be in your planning phase, correct?
Well said, Tyler. So if you want to show back that rendering or put the rendering back on the screen, on the green side, the west side of the site plan, we are taking down the building, so 3/4 of the building can be put back to nature. What we've noticed is this campus, we need a gathering space. And right now, for example, we have Food Truck Tuesdays that happen in between us and the library, but the food truck has to be parked in the parking lot, and it is not the best design for that. So we're making more intentional gathering space outside our building, and that's to celebrate nature. The trailhead is right there. Our outdoor natural area, play area will be expanded, and it's going to be a better user experience in nature, and we needed to put back more green space on the west side. So that is in the light green there that you can see. And then the other colors that are blacked out, you can see the 3 sections of the building. So on the connected to nature, makes most sense, is the nature center. And on the second floor is staff. And then as you move east, the middle part of the building, that is where you would enter the welcome, customer service, multi-purpose space. And then upstairs is senior lounge space, as well as our dedicated gaming room, lecture room, where the furniture can be card tables set up all day. And then the east side of the building, where it is the high school gymnasium, high school size, and that gets you bottom floor, where you can do pickleball, our larger group fitness classes, and then the elevated track will be directly above it. And so that is a big space. So if you look on the floor plans, the gymnasium, the track is 1/3 of the building. And so that's where a ton of square footage had to go in that direction. So that's just under 10,000 square feet itself on that right-hand east side of the building.
Yeah, a lot of recreation space still planned in this building. A lot of those original amenities that were proposed, that were discussed pre-bond and were ultimately agreed upon by the township's electorate, still going to be a factor in this. That's what most people on the day-to-day listening today, watching today, or in the future on civiccentertv.com want to know about. All these changes, of course, affect the space that these programs will ultimately be in. So what are we looking at right now in terms of where these plans are at, what's sort of been changed, and how those spaces for these amenities are being affected by some of these modifications in the plan at this stage of the process?
Right. So price has to drive much of our discussion. So as you heard in our budget update, both with the Park Commission and Township Board, consideration for tariffs and still putting in a good contingency. We are spending more than we anticipated within the bond dollars, so that warrants a discussion for the other projects we still want to accomplish. So with that said, we still aren't getting exactly everything we want. In fact, the question came up the other night, would you build a bigger building if you could? Absolutely, because we know the residents deserve all the public, multi-generational, recreational and leisure space indoors. But we've had to make some decisions. So we made a couple of slices through the building, so it's still going to be very user-friendly. The square footages of the multi-purpose spaces are still great spaces, better than what we have right now. And so if you're at the Recreation Activity Center, that building, the entire building with staff, is 8,400 square feet. So if you keep that into context, with the nature center that we currently have and the 2 multi-purpose rooms, we're doubling in the public space as far as square footage, plus adding the gymnasium. So we're still able to have group fitness, Tyler, the lectures, card gaming, the discovery days in the nature center, all of this. And it's going to be better spaces. So right now, unfortunately, you do look at the parking lots. It's very limited windows that we have both here at the recreation activity and the current Connect building that we rent at Simsbury. So we've been able to maintain those square footages. We had to reduce on storage, which goes against our principle in Parks and Recreation because we just don't like the clutter and equipment and supplies sitting out. So we've made some really smart decisions how we can do that better. And then we've had to, again, minimize a couple square feet on some of the multi-purpose rooms, but we've still maintained everything we promised, plus done better on our circulation in the hallways, the corridors, and we've done better on delivering the requested additional seating and lounge space, like the drop-in space that we heard through our stakeholder conversations that everybody did desire. So we're trying to listen to the residents, still incorporate their ideas and what's important to them. Our instructors are critical in this process, getting their buy-in. But all in all, we've been able to maintain all of those things that we've been able to adhere to. The other great thing is that our landscape architects we've hired have come up with some really creative spaces outside that the campus and our residents are going to be able to use. It's going to be really exciting. We're in the middle of our design development phase. So soon, and we were hoping by the end of the summer, we'll start showing some more of those renderings, all the sides of the building, including some interiors. So stay tuned. Civic Center TV, you'll be the first to know to help us roll out our public update on the building. But we've still got to go through the next couple of weeks and crunch down, make sure that we're getting this right. The rendering that you do see that you've used, that we used in the presentation, is from June. So we've made significant modifications to that. And again, it is based on stakeholder feedback. And we want the people using this building and the staff operating it to be really satisfied to be able to deliver the next 30 years on recreation and leisure services.
Yeah, you want to get this right. You're consolidating all of those different facilities that house staff for West Bloomfield Parks, of course, Connect Senior Center, all that recreation space and more to make this a great amenity centralized at the Civic Center complex. Kelly Hyer is with us, the Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks, with updates on the Connect Community Center project currently underway right now. They're in the planning phase still, hoping in the coming weeks to have more of these plans locked down, start getting into the permit phase as we get into the fall. And the goal still by the turn of the year 2026 to begin construction on that project. Kelly, a couple more questions for you. It's really important in this also, and you mentioned it briefly earlier on, keeping in mind that this bond was not only for the Connect Community Center, but also for really important projects, kind of smaller projects in scope, but very, very, very important maintenance projects for going forward at some of our parks, including Marshbank. So how much of a factor does that also play, especially on the financial side, the planning side, to make this great, extensive building, but not take away from the necessity to still do these other projects?
That's a great question. And to answer that, I want to touch back on the budget process for the building. And if those of you listening at home go back and listen to both Park Commission updates for July as well as the Township Board update I just gave in August, you'll hear me reference to 3 phases of the budget. So when it comes to this big community center project, we have budget check-in points after each phase of our design. So the next couple weeks, we'll be receiving the design set from our architects and engineers on the design development phase. And so we'll be working with our cost estimators to check in. Are we still on track with the estimated now at $24.5 million for the budget? And that still includes the contingencies. So then what happens to the other projects? Tyler, to your question, what is our approach there? And with Parks and Recreation, we are project managing all day long, whether it's events, all the enhancements that you've seen the last 55 years with West Bloomfield Parks. So we've, for example, you'll hear me reference when we built Lily Pad Springs. That was a budget that we had saved up for and a project that we knew we were funding internally with prior year funds, as well as the taxpayer dollars that come in. And so that's the same approach that we tackle our capital improvement projects. And we have a 10-year plan that is a rolling plan where we take and look at the park system as a whole, figure out what is our deferred maintenance, what are the enhancements we want to add to, the amenities we add to, what kind of park property do we want to acquire, and all of that is into our CIP project discussion. So with the pickleball courts at Drake Sports Park, the Marshbank Park paving project, as well as the playgrounds we've talked to, the Marshbank paving was the first thing on the list, and we did commence that project August 1st. And the great news about that, when we went into this paving project, we knew it was a 3-year phase, and we had estimated $1 million for each phase. Going off of Drake Sports Park, we had just done that park. And we were really lucky on our bidders. The entire project will be $1.9 million. So it is under budget, and only a third of that project will be paid for by bond dollars. So at this time, there's little wiggle room for that, but we will be figuring out Drake Sports Park as well as the playgrounds in our CIP conversation in the next budget year. So for those residents, rest assured, West Bloomfield Parks, we continue to deliver amazing amenities, and we're really proud that our residents do support us. So there is not a big list of deferred maintenance, and we're able to tackle that. So more to come on that specifically, but we know about it early on and able to strategize with the park commissioners to make sure that our residents get the amenities that we have promised them.
And all the powers that be definitely also a factor in this planning process from the Parks and Recreation Commission. They're overseeing this. They're talking about this in their public meetings, including their televised monthly meetings. So, same goes with the West Bloomfield Township Board. If you want to see those presentations, civiccentertv.com in our on-demand section. The July 23rd West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission meeting was their most recent presentation there. And then the Township Board, they did a presentation with the latest budget information and design information. That's the August 11th meeting again, civiccentertv.com. We're joined by Kelly Hyer, Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks. That's the update on the Connect Community Center. Kelly, thank you so much for your time today.
Great questions, Tyler. Happy to be on.